All right, how's everybody doing? I'm still in the book of Judges. On the last video where I left off, I was talking about how, basically Joshua passed away, and he was called to, lead the Lord's people, and he passed the torch basically. So basically, there were a lot of different book of Judges. There were a lot of different, judges, those who who the Lord called or used, whoever, to lead Israel. And basically, it was like a repeating cycle, a repeating process, if you will. And it starts out with, as I told you, Judah and Simeon, they were being led into the land, the promised land, as far as the land of Canaan, and they failed to conquer the land. So the Lord had sent a messenger, and of course, Israel continued to obey the Lord. And there were many different, judges, and I believe I touched on a few of them the last time, and I was talking about Deborah. So I'll go a little bit over it, but mainly this is the main cycle. Okay, Israel did evil in the Lord's eyes, idolatry, worshiping idols, and of course that was forbidden, and of course it angered the Lord from all that He's done. Now, with that being said, they allowed because of that, the Lord allowed a neighboring enemy to attack and overcome Israel. Then Israel was oppressed and enslaved. Then they cried out to the Lord. Then God raises up another deliverer, someone to come and overtake the enemy. So then that happens, and then Israel is delivered. Then Israel is at peace. Then Israel forgets about God. Now this happens about 15 cycles in Israel, almost 300 years. Okay, so this happened about basically 15 times. Okay, so it's kind of like learning from your mistakes. But obviously they didn't, as a whole. Now I know, mind you, it was 600,000 people altogether in Israel, but that's telling you right there that just to be thankful, especially if you are saved, and if not, to just, I strongly would suggest to take it into consideration, but just how to keep being hard headed, just basically not learning from your mistakes. The Lord told you what was forbidden, and He told you, what you're not supposed to do. He didn't say be perfect. He said just try, but they kept worshiping idols. So then the Lord, He'll let things happen. And then, they were enslaved and crying out to the Lord, asking to help them. And then, he sent, basically He raised up deliverers. So there was many deliverers and judges. And that's basically what it is. Someone to, run the town or whatever you will. So here we have, this is basically the cycle. Punishment, crying out to God, judges raised up, deliverance, and sinning, and over and over and over again, okay? So, one person that the Lord raised up, one judge was Gideon, okay? Now, Israel at the time was they were basically, worshiping idols and everything, so the Lord passed them over to the Midianites. Okay, so the Lord raised up someone else named Gideon, and Gideon was sent to defeat the Midianites. Okay, he was brought up to defeat the Midianites, and that's what happened. Okay, but first Gideon asked for a sign, basically to trust God. So what he said was, Gideon didn't understand, that the Lord wanted to use him, and he didn't believe it. So he asked him, if you're going to use him to rescue Israel, prove it to him. So he said he'll put a wool fleece on the floor, and if the fleece is wet, but the ground is dry, then he'll know that you're going to help him. So of course, what happened? The fleece was wet. So what happened was, the next time, basically the Lord used him to, of course, you need troops in every battle, and the strength in numbers. So out of 22,000, 10,000 were willing to fight. Okay, because basically, the Lord said, the rest who are timid or afraid, go home, because they get ready to attack the Midianites. So, at the end of the day, what the Lord did was, He tested them to see how, who will go with Him and who will not. Basically, you want to get the strongest men in battle, okay? Just like if you remember that movie 300, you remember it was only 300 men, but, they were outnumbered in a lot of their battles. But what happened? They defeated a lot of enemies, because they were the strongest, and, strength in numbers, but, you'll pack a mighty blow, of course, if you're all on the same accord, as far as that goes. So, long story short, it wound up being out of 22,000 narrowed down to 10,000 and 300. And how it narrowed down to 300 was, the Lord told him, divide the men into two groups. And he said, put those who cup water in their hands and lap it up with their tongues like dogs. And the other group put those who kneel down and drink with their mouths in the stream. So he separated them. Of course, he took those, he took the men, not the boys. So it wound up being 300 men with him. And Gideon, led them to victory against the Midianites. Okay? So one thing that Gideon did, which was bad, okay, now he killed these Midianite kings, Zebah and Zalmunna. Okay, they were the Midianite kings, and he killed them. Okay, and there are a lot. There, of course, in a battle, there are a lot, that get killed. But he took them out, and he killed them both. And now what happened next is where he messed up, where they go back into that. If you look at the stage I was talking about, they go back into that. Basically, Israel's at peace, and Israel forgets God. So basically, they're at this stage again. Okay, now this time, this is with the ruler Gideon, not the ruler, but yeah, with the who the Lord rose up. So now, what Gideon did, he told those people, he said, of course they wanted the Israelites. They said, let's make you rule and everything. But he didn't want to. But he said, what you can do is give me, collect all the jewelry from the fallen enemies. And what happened? Of course, he made an idol. Okay, he started, idol worshiping, And Israel began to prostitute themselves by worshiping the image of Baal, okay, and making Baal their god. So what did the Lord do? The Lord, of course, was pissed, and he didn't like that. Okay, so long story short, Gideon wound up passing away, and that's how it kind of left off. So it's kind of he led the Israelites to victory, and the Lord rose him up. But he took matters into his own hands after that. Okay, and you can tell where his mind was at. He of course he got the victory and everything, but he wound up, he said he wasn't even trying to be a ruler over Israel. He just wanted those to, collect the jewelry and everything off his enemies, and they wound up, leading the Israelites back into captivity. Basically, they were prostituting themselves to an idol, Baal. So, of course, after he passed away, he had 70 sons. So the Bible says, "Be ye fruitful and multiply," and he definitely did. He had that down packed to a science, So to have 70 sons, of course, you had many different wives, but this is how it was back in the day. And I see, like I said, he had that "Be ye fruitful and multiply" down to a science. So this is a kind of example of what happened. The Lord, he spread panic among the Midian army. Gideon came to Savior, but he made an idol to worship, as I was talking about. And what he did, he took the gold into an ephod, okay, basically like a carved image, or kind of like a statue. So he placed it in his hometown, Oprah, and Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping the idol, okay. And of course, it became a snare to Gideon and his family. Basically, it backfired, okay. Now he had 70 sons, okay. Now one of his sons, I'll get into it, was before I get into it, these were some more the principal judges, judges that stood out. As I told you about the last video, Deborah, she was a prophetess. Gideon, who I'm talking about now, and Abimelech's son, you'll find out why he was the worst character in this book, the book of Judges. You have Jephthah, who was the son of a prostitute who killed his own daughter, sickening, and you also have Samson, who was a violent, self-willed womanizer. Okay, so we'll continue on with Gideon. Okay, now as I said, he had 70 sons. Okay, so he had it down to a science. Now Gideon's son, one day his son name was Abimelech. Okay, he traveled to Shechem, which is another city, to visit his uncles. So of course, what he did was he told those those there, his uncles and his family. He said, "Do you want to of course do they want to be ruled by 70 of Gideon's sons, or be ruled by one man?" So basically, he kind of turned his back and kind of was trying to make a deal with them. Like saying, hey uncle, let me be ruler. We related, we family, we blood. Don't I know I got some brothers, but don't worry about them. Y'all want to be ruled by 70 of them, or just me? And we family and everything. So what happened was, Abimelech, he was wicked. You're about to see right now. So with that being said, he kept a gang of troublemakers around him who agreed to follow him. So it was just a bunch of troublemakers around him. Negative person, seeing how low somebody would go to become ruler or become king. Now I'm gonna tell you what happened was, he killed all 70 of his half brothers. He killed all 70 of them just to become ruler over there. And you see, that's how wicked he is. So of course they made him ruler in Shechem, but he killed all his brothers, and one of them escaped, and that was Jotham, and he hid, and that was the youngest brother. Now, when Jotham hid, he basically, of course, he started to vouch for Abimelech because he was scared of him. You know, that was his oldest brother. So, he kept running from him. You know, he was scared of him. Now, however, you know, in life and in the Bible, they say you reap what you sow. So basically, you know, what goes around comes around. Of course, you want to spread good karma, positive karma, because the Lord said, you know, the Lord's wrath, basically you don't want to be on the other side of the Lord's wrath. Okay, you know, God is a jealous God. For one, you know, the Israelites, they kept, you know, stepping into dangerous waters and territories because they kept worshiping idols. And then the Lord had to keep saving them. So, you know, this is basically a bunch of disobedience. Now, we all are sinners saved by grace as far as, you know, those who believe in God. But it's just someone that has scooped that low to, you know, become ruler over a town, over a city, you know, to kill all 70 of his half-brothers is just sickening. And, you know, one of them escaped. So long story short, Shechem, they rebelled against Abimelech. Basically the town that, you know, he was ruling in. Of course, this was God's wrath. You know, God's wrath coming against Abimelech. So what happened was, long story short, he wound up getting killed. He wound up getting stoned by a woman. Okay, he got basically crushed his skull. So what happened was, first of all, I'll tell you first what happened was, for the evil that he's done, you know, this is how God punished him. Okay, against his father by murdering his 70 brothers. You know, and that's just sickening, you know, just to become ruler. So what happened was, he died. He basically, a woman from a roof, you know, they were at war, of course, so a woman from the roof, she dropped a millstone. You know, from what I understand, you know, that's one of the big old rocks. You know, she dropped it from the top of the roof, and it fell down on his head and killed him. You know, and basically, also what happened was, a sword, you know, a sword had it crushed his skull, basically, Abimelech's head. Okay, so basically a woman killed Abimelech. And a young man had ran through him with his sword as well. So he died a horrible death, and that's basically, you know, you reap what you sow, you know. And that goes to show right there, I believe that, you know, just to be that evil and disobedient and, you know, to be that ruthless, you know, that's why we're living in a wicked world now. So it's just important as far as cycles and judges, you know, I just look at it like, you know, the Lord wants us to break off, you know, a lot of patterns that we're doing. It's a lot of course, you know how a lot of us can be going around in circles. You know, I was at that one point in my life, you know, just going around in circles, you know, not going anywhere, not trying to go anywhere, should I say. You know, of course, I'm still working towards and, you know, still a work in progress, you know, because nobody's perfect, but just going around in circles in your life, not knowing, you know, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And, of course, years go by. You know, you get older, you're not getting no younger, you know. So that's why it's important, of course, to learn from your mistakes. And they say do things right the first time, because you can tell right here, you know, to go through this 15 cycles over. And I know it's a lot of different personalities and situations. You know, of course, out of 600,000 people, that's a big you know, a big following that the Lord's people, but to keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, you know, being hard-headed, worshiping idols, and forgetting about God who saves you each and every time, that should stick. So I'm pretty sure, you know, breaking bad habits and you know, start new habits. That's basically is the right way to go. You know, kind of, you know, like letting away with the old and, you know, going forward with the new, but you know, just continue to keep it that way, you know, instead of going backwards over and over and over again. So that goes to show you right there, you know, how wicked and how ruthless, you know, I'm sure out of 70 sons, if you think about it now, Gideon had 70 sons. So out of 70 sons, I'm pretty sure, you know, of course, one of them had to be a little cuckoo, a little nutso, and just so happened that Abimelech was the one who was, and of course, he took all his brothers out. Killed them, all his half brothers, all 70 of them, except one of them who escaped and wound up, you know, reaping what he sowed. That's why it's important that, you know, of course, you know, no matter what, just try to stay in that positive direction in your life, you know, no matter what may hit you. It's hard, of course, it's hard, it's difficult, but just so you won't, you know, follow that negative cycle and which will lead to, you know, to bad karma down the road. Of course, you know, things happen, and this is basically God's way of punishing them. And you know, from killing 70 sons, he became ruler and everything. But of course, he got crushed by a millstone, fell on his head, and died. So that's why you know, it's just important, of course, to you know to be nice to people, and you know to just try to stay in that, keep a positive outlook on life. You know, no matter what. Now, there's more judges, and it's also a great. I want to talk about Samson in the next video because halfway through Judges. But yeah, I'll be talking about Samson and Jephthah and a few other things. But just stay tuned. But you know, everybody stay blessed, stay positive, and I'll talk to you next video.